Good morning, hello, happy hello, blah 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 blah. Good morning, happy coders. We're going to be working today on the test server API, and this is something that we've been doing. We started last week, and this test server API is the thing that I'm going to be using to mimic Facebook and GitHub and other APIs, just so I can get my end-to-end tests working on the back end of How to Code Well. I won't go into that today because we did a lot of that last week, but what I'm going to do today is set up Postman to interact with the test server API, so I've got something to test with. And also I would like to work on Symfony and get some Symfony YAML representation going of the responses. Hopefully we can crack on with that too. First up though, I need to get Postman up to speed. So let me just get into the code a sec. This is the Postman dashboard. I've literally just created the test server API here. First thing we're going to do, because we're not savages, we're going to hit dark mode. Look at that on the eyes. And then we're going to create a request. Now I've already booted this up, and it should be running against the IP address. So Docker machine IP, that should be the IP that we're running against. And in my host file, that is set to howtocodewell.local. So we should be able to use that too. I'm going to just use the IP for now though, just to be 100% sure that's working. Also note that this is running off of port 8080. So let's see, we should be able to create, it's been a while since I've done this. Let's create a request and then I'll do all the environments and all of that stuff. So the request name here is going to be, we're going to do the API that returns the user. So we're going to just let's do user for now. I'll change all of this later. Do I need to actually create a collection? I don't know. Do I need to do that? User, why can't I save? Why is that not allowing me to save? Save. Why can't I save it? Why can't I save it? Create a request. Okay, I probably just clicked on the wrong thing. Okay, so this one should be going to HTTP. The IP address, that's the port range. So the IP address should be this, which is 192.168.138:8880 or 8080. 8080, and then it's GitHub, I believe. And then I tell you what, let's bring up the code so we can actually see what it is. That would help, wouldn't it? So it should be this one. This is the one I did last night. So this is just the basic one. Well, not the basic one. This is the example one they provide. So that should be going to API v3 user after GitHub. So we're gonna push that into all the things like that. Let's hit send and see what happens. Yes, that's correct. That is exactly what we need. Okay, so I'm going to can I save this at all? Save the request name. It's still not allowing me to save it. All collections. Do I have to create a collection? That's very weird. Collections. Let's create collection. User. In fact, thinking about how this logical structure should be, let's create a folder in here called actually let's create a collection in here. Let's edit this collection even. let's change this to be GitHub, because it's not always going to be GitHub. There's, like I said, Facebook and other things. GitHub. And let's put in a folder in here, and we're going to put user. And then I guess, is there a way I could push this into here? Add request. Save as user. There we go. Now we're in it. So this is get user. That makes sense. Save to user. There we go. Okie dokie. Now, this is just a complete dummy request, right? So I'm not actually passing any access tokens. There's nothing in here. It's just hitting this and returning this JSON, right? So this. I can then use this as a replacement to calling GitHub when I'm doing my tests, right? So we're not hitting the GitHub API, the live one, every time I do a test. I can hit this and come back, return the stuff. Now, the next part of this is, well, this is all well and good, but like I said, there's no access tokens being supplied here, and there is only one response. If I go back to the code, we can see that this response is just this response. There's no way of altering this response. So I had a mad thought this morning when I woke up about 5 about how to deal with this. What I'm thinking of doing is, because I want to have different scenarios in my tests of, returning different users or returning different responses, testing if, how my system holds up if the API goes away or returns a response that I'm not predicting. Let's say, for example, the API falls down and it returns some random thing, or it returns a 502 or something like that. Anyway, so I need a way of changing this, right? And changing the responses and manipulating the headers of the response as well. So I thought, why don't I create some configuration? And the configuration could be perhaps keyed by the access token that I supply in the header. And maybe the configuration could be done in YAML. And maybe a response could be in a YAML file could represent a one response. So you would have multiple YAML files, one for each response. I then thought, well, why should I go down the YAML route? Why don't I just do JSON? It's just going to return JSON, so why don't I just create a load of JSON files? But then I thought, that's not going to allow me to manipulate the return codes, the status codes, the headers and all that jazz. So I think YAML is probably the way to go, even though I'm not a massive YAML fan, unfortunately. I find it, try and represent that in YAML. It's there's a lot of it. Luckily, there's only one subsection, but imagine if this gets nested. Anyway. So what I'm thinking of doing is creating, and we'll do it in this branch here, the features GitHub auth. I'm thinking of perhaps doing something in config where we have, I don't know, let's do, I'm just thinking aloud here. Let's do something like responses, because they are responses, right? And we've got to remember that this is just GitHub at the moment, but this could go on to other things like Facebook and stuff. So we'll create another folder in here called GitHub, like so. And then what I'm thinking of doing is creating another folder, nest all the things, called user. So this is going to represent the user API, which is this one here. And then in here we could have a series of YAML files that represent different responses. And we could create a YAML file, and the YAML file could have the access token as the file name, right? So then when we come into here, we find the access token off of the request header, and then we find the relevant response representation in the YAML file based on the access token that's supplied, and then we pull that out, get the contents of that, and then we pass that into here. This means that it's incredibly configurable. Hey, Wineblood. Yeah, so I'm working on the test server API. This is the thing that is going to allow me to test, end-to-end test the back end of how to code well with the integration of things like GitHub, Facebook, and other APIs. Google is one I want to do as well. So when you do an end-to-end test of that, normally what happens is you would mock that out, right? You would mock the response out. But the thing is, when you're doing unit tests. But the problem with that is that it's very difficult to do an end-to-end test because it requires you to go off and hit GitHub, if we just think of GitHub for now. And I don't want to be rate limited. I don't want to be throttled. I don't want my IP address to be blocked. So I have created this test server API. It's just a bare bones Symfony app, right? Which has a bunch of endpoints that represent some of the endpoints of the GitHub API, the endpoints at least that I need to worry with, which means that now I can change my request from GitHub to my test server API, and then I can continue the OAuth 2 flow, the pathway for that. So, I've only started doing this. I started this last Sunday, I think it was. Saturday. I was working on it Friday night, Saturday. So anyway, this is just the representation of the GitHub API v3 user. And what I'm thinking of doing here is having some YAML files that represent the output of this. I have a Postman request here, which goes off to this. We'll configure this later on, I think. It's no biggie. Setting up the environment variables. I don't want to get too sidetracked. That's done. So yeah, let's create, because I want to get into the code. So I want to do, let's just create a random access token. It doesn't matter if it's correct. Let's just do ABC, right? Or just test 1, 2, 3, right? .yaml. And what I would like to do is get this and put this into a YAML file. Okay. This is going to be fun. There's going to be a lot of replacing of things, I think. So let's get that and replace it with nothing. Let's get that and replace that with probably this, maybe. If we did space as well, we could probably do that. So it's okay. Boom. No. Can we go back one? There we go. Let's do the arrow as well. Right. Oh, no, I need that. There we go. Thank you. No, I've done... There we go. With the arrow. Thank you. No, that's not the arrow. That's the arrow. Right. Replace. Right. Excellent. Right, let's bring all these back. In fact, let's not, because I want to have body. I want to have status code. I want to have... Yeah, let's leave it like that for now. We could probably play around with the headers, but... Right, and then I'm going to grab... what am I doing? I don't need this in here. I need this in the body. Right, that goes into there. Probably going to have to put these in some form of quotes, maybe. I don't know. Don't need that. Don't need that one either. Okay, so that's the YAML, I think. I think that was fairly straightforward to do. Body, login. Oh, hang on a minute. Wait. We are going to have to push this one back a wee bit. There we go. Get it all in line. That's the thing with the indentation. You've got to make sure it all lines up. Right. So the idea now is that if I supplied an access token, a header access token called test123, then I want to pull this back. So basically, we need to deal with that. That becomes... so we've got two things here. We've got the body, right, which is this, and then we've got the status code, which is something else. And let's just set that to 200 OK for a second. Okay, so the body goes into here, and the status code, I believe, goes into the next one, like so. Now we need some way of discovering the header, so we can do request get. Is it header? Headers? Headers. Get. Let's look for the access token. And if the access token, whilst this is doing that, let's jump into Postman and do headers and do access control request headers. No, let's tell you what. There's a way in Postman to do this, isn't there? Authorization, there we go. Inherit from no auth API bearer token. Heads up, these parameters hold sensitive blah yeah. Okay. So let's change this to be test. Whoops, test 1 2. Is it 1 2 3 or 1 2 3 4? I forget. What have I done? 1 2 3. No. Okay, groovy. Okay, so then if we go back to headers, we should see. There we go. Authorization bearer. Gotcha. So let's grab that from here then. This should be authorization. And it comes with the bearer, so we need to do well, we could probably break it in part, can we? So we could do parts is equal to explode. The separator is a space because the space is the thing that goes in between these here. So it would be bearer on part 1 and it would be the test 1 2 3 on part 2. So that would be the separator, and so this would be the header value. There it is. And then so we then can pull out the token by getting the second part of this out, so parts, and then 0. Yeah, who knew replacing? It is at this time of morning, man. It is this when it's 7:06 a.m. and this is the first slurp of the tea of the day, so replacing anything is difficult. I must ensure that I don't let that go cold like I do on the other streams. Okay, so we now have the token, right? So, whoops. So that should be test 1 2 3, and we should now be looking at using the Symfony Finder component. Now, this has no TDD, this is no tests. I'm just basically thinking aloud, throwing code at the wall and seeing if it sticks. There will be tests, definitely, once I have a working idea as to a concept. Okay, so, because I don't even know if this is going to work. So we need to find, oh geez, it's been a while since I've used this component. I'm going to have to look at the, I think it's that. I'm going to have to look at the documentation. Symfony, I'm sure it's the Finder sure it is. Find a component. Searching for files and directories. Here we go. Finder in. Aha. Okay. No. So it's it's in. The location is mandatory criteria. It tells the finder which directory to use the search. So search inside both directories. Search in, same as above. So it's that or that. Okay, I see. Search in, that's what we want to do. So that's going off to src. So I would imagine src would be at this point. So I imagine we could do config. And then this would be responses. And then this would be GitHub. Then it would be the user. And then it would be the token. So let's just create a path in here. So that's the path. And it's going to be user, and it's going to be token dot YAML. I think that's what we need to do. Now, I'm just thinking, because I'm using YAML, there is a YAML component of Symfony, isn't there? Which I can't remember what it is. So let's have a look at that. It's something like Symfony YAML parser or something like that. Symfony YAML to array, that's fine. YAML component, because it's going to be into an array. Using the YAML component, reading YAML contents, parse the YAML. That's YAML reading YAML files. Here we go. I thought it was that. Gotcha. Okay. Maybe we can just do this. Rather than use the finder. Maybe that's what we need to do. I'm playing. I'm just playing. So I don't know, like I said, I don't know if this is going to work. Parse file, is that the thing? Here we go. Pass in the path. Now, hopefully that path is correct. Path to YAML file. What does this return? Mixed. The YAML converted into a PHP value. Okie dokie. It's an array, isn't it? It's an array, which is what we want. Okay. Now if I can only find my application window. There we go. Right. So. Response. Okay. So let's get rid of the finder for now. Right. So. Whoops. So, we apparently have this. We need to pull out the body. So, let's go to body is equal to response body. That replaces this one. Boom! Next one is the status code, right? Status code. And that is this one. I'm going to put status code at the top just because the body's going to get quite long. It doesn't matter where it lives. So this is 200. So this would be, and I can't remember what I've called it. Is it status underscore code? Yes, it is. So these will all be conventions once I work out how to do all this. That's wrong, isn't it? That's completely and utterly wrong. Let's get rid of that. There we go. Okay, so let's see. Let's see. This is going to hit this again, and if everything is the same, it should be okay? If not, then we got some problems. Nope, we got problems. File, config response, GitHub user. So it worked itself out, all right? Does not exist. Rats. Is it that? I don't know. I'm now playing with the path of things. Oh, there we go. That worked. Woohoo! So technically speaking, if I was to change this now to be... let's say, just create my own user, right? PFWD, right? Which is... And we'll give it the access token of PFWD123, right? So the login here is PFWD. The... blah, 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 blah. All of this stuff can be changed. Yeah, let's just leave that as is. I just want something to play with. So that's good. Let's change the Postman to be PFWD. If I can I change it? Are you going to allow me to change this? Or is this a Postman thing? It's a Postman thing. PFWD 123 send. Yay! Yeah, it worked. Just like that. Boom. Okay, this is great because this means now that I can make my own little responses. Let's change this to be a 404, right? That should change the status code here. Yeah, 404 not found. Wonderful. That's really, really good. I'm so pleased that has for some mad idea I had at 5 a.m. this morning, that's been really good. I'm feeling slightly smug. And slightly worried that I've used all my intelligence up today, just in that. All right, let's... Right, so this thing is the magic. That's the magic. We need to obviously test this up. And I don't want this to be in a controller, because this is going to be... For all of the things, so in GitHub, we've got user controller, which is this. We've got the auth controller as well. So really, I need to move this out into a service. Really, somehow. Yeah. I tell you what, though, before we plow on, let's just get Postman up and working better. So this is running off the IP address. I don't want that. Let's run it off of the... let's ensure that we can actually do it off of how to code while.local. Come on. Come on. Yes. Okay, so I'm gonna set this up. So we're gonna go to... How do we create an environment? No environment. No, I want to create an environment. How does new? Environment. There we go. Save values. Yes. Okay, so this one we'll call this dev, right? And we'll have a variable name. We'll call this URL. The initial value is going to be how HTTP how to code well.local. Copy that over to that. Whoa, that's fine. We also need to have another one called access token. So this one's going to be PFWD123. Let's call this base URL. Excellent. Okay, so we can change that now, hopefully, to dev. And then this becomes our base URL. We need to also supply the port. So, is there... Oh, great. So how do I update this environment now? I'm sure there used to be some button somewhere around here. It's not new. It's not runner. What's settings? I'm going to do this off stream. Bear with me. No, it's not settings. Oh, okay. Right, there's another settings button here, apparently. That does dev. You click on that, I think. There we go. Right, I want to add the port, so that's what I want to do. 8080. There we are. All right, let's hit update. Sweet. So this needs to be our base URL, and we do that like base URL. There we go. And this is going to be, I've forgotten it already. Is it access token? Can we? There we go. Okay. Because this just means that I can now use this for other requests and not have to hard code everything. I can just do it in the environments. So if we hit send on this, slightly nerve-wracking if this doesn't work. There we go. And if I was to change the environment variable of dev to from this to be the current value to be test 123, that should hopefully return the test 123. The octocat rather than PFWD. It does. It does. Sweet. So, excellent. Let's put it back to PFWD. Brilliant. Okay. That's good. So I need some way of getting this out. I'm thinking what I would do is I would have, if we were to refactor this code, we would have something like this manager. No, this this. I'm just trying to think of what the service would be called for this. Would it be responses? This response. No, because that's really used somewhere else. This response config. And then you would do get, right? And you would supply what are the things that we need to supply here? We need to supply this. That's what we need to do. So it would be GitHub. We would need to supply user because that's the current request. And then we would also need to supply the access token. So like that. And this would return the response data, which would be this stuff. And then that would be response data body, response data status code. Yeah, I think that's all right. Because this could be Facebook, right? later down the line, it could be that. I'm trying to think of a way of doing this which is a little bit... and you would possibly even go one step further and actually pass in the request, right? That way we don't need to worry about this stuff, right? This stuff would be handled within the response config. We would pass in the request. Yeah, so that would be provider, that would be endpoint, and that would be request. So let's see if we can get this wired up. Let's create a new file directory here called response config. Create a new... I mean, we could even go one step further and just pass in GitHub, right? That would mean that we wouldn't need that. If there was a response config class for each type of... Yeah, let's do that. So this would be GitHub config. In fact, let's just call it GitHub. Yeah, response manager. Naming things is difficult. And these are different response managers. There we go. Yeah, I think that works. Because you would have Facebook Response Manager and Google Response Manager and all of that jazz. And we could even abstract the class out so we only deal with the YAML stuff from a very abstract level. Yeah, that seems sensible. Okay. Yeah, okay, I need to create a namespace, which is going to be app response manager. It is a class called GitHub Response Manager, and we're going to have I'm not a happy camper of get. It sounds too much. Well, it's an accessor, isn't it? So public function. Create the response. Passing in a string, which is the endpoint. And the request. Yeah. So have I not used the right request? Hang on a minute. Request. No, I haven't. I didn't think I did. The endpoint is going to be here. Yeah. Well, I might change the name of that to something else. Request name? I don't know. I might even be able to do something clever to find it off of this, to be fair. Brain's going a little bit too fast for me this morning, I think. Okay, so that should be all of this jazz. And we're going to create a public function construct. And this is going to have the GitHub Response Manager in here, which is this private let's just call it Response Manager. So this Response Manager is equal to Response Manager, and then down in the here we do Response Manager, this Response Manager, and now we should be able to run create, passing in the endpoint, which is user, passing in the request. That should be the response data. Okay, and then the response data should be down in here, so we have response data body. I mean, I could even put this in wrap this into a class, to be fair. Yeah, I'll probably do that rather than an array. But let's just do one step at a time. Brain's like, no, do it now. All right, let's run this, see if this fails. It's thinking about it a lot more than it did before, which isn't good. No, it worked. Sweet, it worked. Excellent. So we do create, and we do all this jazz. So if we were to think about this in the future, we would have a Facebook Response Manager and a Google Response Manager. They would all need to have these things. And we would have an interface called create that returns this. However, I would like to return not an array, I would like to return an object that gets passed into here, and then in my object I can have methods get body and get status code, which means that I'll be able to add other methods later down the line. So what I'm thinking is, I tell you what I'm thinking is this, right? So we do a response manager in here, we do response manager interface, right? So this is an interface. Whoops. We call this response manager interface, and this is just going to have a public function create, and in the create routine we have a string which is an endpoint, and we have a request, which is that request. Okay, now at the moment it's returning an array, which we don't want to do, but let's just tie this up for a second. So that's going to do that will implement the response manager interface. What's wrong with this? Return type declaration, sure. Okay. Fine, let's just run that again. I don't like how it takes so long. I know it's reading off of the file system. I wonder if in the future there's a way of caching this. But anyway, my brain's going 100 miles an hour. So let's, so instead of returning an array, we would now want to return a class. So let's create a file in here called, I don't want to call it response because it's too close to the, call it response config. Yeah. I'm agreeing with myself in my head. Response config, there we go. This is going to have a private status code. Code E. Come on. Fingers are not typing as fast as my brain is working. This is then... Oh, this is the body. This is an array. This is an int. Okay. Then we can do some getters and setters. And then we can do a factory. Yeah. Why is this only doing the status code? Let's do everything, please. Thank you. So just a very simple getter and setter jobby, but the interface is now going to return that. So it is response config, which means that in here we need to, this is going to be returning response config, create, up here that's response config. So then in the user controller, this is let's just call it response data. Yeah. Naming things is very tricky in programming. It's get body, and then this is response data. Now the reason I'm doing this is because what happens if I pass this in and it doesn't find anything? Like if I was to do a response code that doesn't, an access token that doesn't exist, I'm going to need to handle that somewhere. But I'm still going to have return a class that represents the default. Okay, right. That's good. Let's get rid of that. We don't need those in here. Response manager, response config. Right, we need to hydrate the response config through this. So what we would do is we would create data in here, and we would do response config is equal to, I'll just do a concrete class now and then I'll do a factory in a minute. Response config is equal to a new response config. I could probably pass this in as data, to be fair, in the constructor. So we could do public function I don't know why. There we go. PHP Storms doesn't always body and status code. That's an int. That is a an array. Sometimes PHP Storm doesn't do auto hint on constructor, which is annoying. This body is equal to body. This status code is equal to status code, and then in here we supply data body data status code. Status code, right? Okay, and then we return that. Run. Okay. Okay, I'm going to move this up. Okay, I'm going to move this up, I think. So we're going to create this somewhere. Oh dear, what have I done? Yeah, working on the wrong project. There we go. I'm going to move that somewhere. Let's, and I need to deal with this as well. So I need to deal with that, and I need to deal with this. I need to put this somewhere. Let's call this abstract. Response manager, like this. And we have a public function that is called, well, it's doing too many things in this thing, isn't it? So one is to get access token, right? That's one thing. Which is, we pass in the request. So this could be get access token from request. This allows us to then have other means of getting the access token, I suppose. So we pass in the request in here. This would be a string that we return. We don't implement that. So we pass that in, we get the header value, we do the explode, and we get the parts, and we return the first one. The second one, so we will return that. Marvelous. Okay, so that's that done. Next thing is to deal with the actual getting the path. So here we go. I don't want to call it get path. It's get config. That's what it is. Get config. Get response config. That's going to return us an array. What do we need here? We need the endpoint, which is a string. And we need the token, which is a string. Not always. Yes. No, we do. I need to think of endpoints that don't require the access token. It's not really that, is it? It's more of file name. Yeah. All right. So that's the endpoint, that's the file name. And we return this. Wonderful. Okay. That gets rid of all this jazz. let's get to the response manager here. Let's extend the abstract jobby. This then is the way we do it. So we do whoa. We do token is equal to this get access token from request. We get response config or config. Just do config p config. Config is equal to this get response config, passing in the endpoint, which in this case is passed there, and the token, which is the file name. That gets rid of all this jazz, and we can change the config like that. Boom. And get rid of this. That looks much better. That looks clean. So again, this could be Facebook Manager, this could be Google Manager, and they would extend the abstract response manager, which would allow me to get these things passing through the endpoint and the request, and then it would return response config. We'll deal with that in a minute. Let me just make sure that still works. Yes, it does. Okay, so I guess for now we could keep this, but I'm just a little bit dubious because in the future I might want to change the YAML so it's not just the body and the status code. There could be other things like the changing of the header. And supplying defaults. That's the thing that I want to deal with, is defaults. So in responses in here we could have something like headers. Which would be private array of headers. Yeah. Create response config. I might be able to get away with that. Yeah. Okay. Is there a way I can get the endpoint from the request? GitHub user controller here, and we've got the endpoint, which is user, which is that. I'm wondering if we can get this from the request. I'm wondering what the danger of that, what the risk would that be. I don't think there is a risk. Don't think. I suppose I could put this as a second value and have that as null, and if it's null, then we get it from the request. Let's have a play. So if we did, and I can't remember what this is, so you'll have to bear with me a minute. This would be request, No. Get base path, base URL, user, client IP, content type, encoding, host, HTTP languages. URI for path. URI. Let's try that. Da, 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 da. Come on. Give me a var dump. Let me see what I can do. It's a string. Yeah, so I could explode that and get the last one. Couldn't I? So if this was the other way around, like that, and also set this to be null, and do endpoint is equal to endpoint null isn't null, endpoint or request get URI explode by a slash. Oh no, this is going to get dirty. If I was to put in a comma separated list, sorry, a question mark, a query string. But let's just do array last key last array key last end, I think it is. Actually, I think I'm overcomplicating this. I think I'm going to keep the endpoint in. It just gives you a little bit more control from the controller's point of view. Yeah, I'm going to leave that in. That's an architectural decision right there. I'm going to leave the endpoint. What I'm going to do though is put the endpoint as a second parameter because yeah, just cause, which means I need to change this. Okay, that's fine. Right, let's go back to the user controller. We now need to put the request in. Yeah, I think that pans out quite well. I'm not sure response config should be in response manager folder, but that's fine for now. User controller. Okay. I suppose what I could do is marry this up with the other requests. This is just getting the user, so the auth controller here is the access token. This is the actual thing that returns the JSON jobby. So let's see if we can work through this one. Actually, yeah, let's work through this one first, and then we'll work through that one. So this is getting the access token from the request. You pass in the scope. And it returns this. So if we were to create another folder in here, and we were to call this, what should we call this? Access token. Trying to keep it to be the same as the... Yeah, we'll add those in, it's fine. Let's just get rid of that one for a second. So, the access token, let's get rid of all of this jazz. Oh, let's change that to 200. Let's just get a representation of this. So let's do GitHub API example response. Users. It's getting of the user. That's where I got all this from. But I would like is there a way? I mean, I know it's just a standard OAuth thing. There we go. Oh no, hang on, wait. That's getting the user back. Getting started with the API, do a hello world. Get your own user profile, your username, your token. Okay, that's the private token. That's a public. That's the personal token. Here we go. I think it's down here, isn't it? Type of owner, create a repository. No. Pagination, creating an issue, conditional requests. Nope. This is it. This is it. That's it. Yep. Yep. Let's just do user on this one. That's fine. Okay, so that's the access token. We'll set this to be 123. In the auth controller, we're getting when this comes down, we get the scope, which is the token is bearer token, request is scope, access token, OAuth access token. OAuth access token is this. Users are redirected back to the site. Exchange this code for an access code. Okay, so if here we go. That's what we need. We need the string. We need the code. So we need to get the code. Let's not worry too much about that for a second. The code becomes the thing that's in here, right? Which is PFWD123. So if we were to use the magic of this, so let's put this as a this response manager create request. Now this is a bit tricky because I'm creating this and assuming that I've already got an access token. That's not the case. That's not the case in this case. The endpoint though is access token. What we need is to supply so let's just create this as PFWD code, right? I suppose I could create another one. So this is create from access token, and this is create from code, right? I don't know, that just sounds a bit bleh. Because then I can change this to be get access token, get code from token. That's not right. Hang on a minute. Let me reword this. That should be get token from request. Yeah. So if we had the code, get code from request, that would be get code. It wouldn't be in the headers, it would be in the request, I think, because you're passing this in as parameters. I think it'd be like a query string. In fact, that's all it is. Let's do is get is equal to true. If is, can I just get this from the request? Get method. Is there an is method? If is method. Get. can't remember whether that's request or whether that's query. I can't remember. I think it's that. There we go. And let's define code. There we go. That's fine. Let's set this back to be null by default. So it's a nullable. No, a blank string. So it's always going to be a string. We don't need this. Okay. To be fair, the bearer token may be not in the header. It should be. Anyway. So. we need something which is public function create from code. I don't know, and then this is get code from get code. It's not a code token. Come on, Pete. It's just code. And let's do access code. There we go. Get access code code from request. There we go. And then in here we do that. This is the code. So the difference between these two methods is this one here uses the access token, and this one here uses the code from request. Okay, and then I'm not really happy with my naming conventions, but and then down in here this is response data. Okay, let's try and do this as a request in Postman, and let's just see where it plays out. So we create a new request. Can I duplicate this one? I can indeed. Let's change the name. So this is access token. The request is this. So back into Postman World. Let's hit send. And it'll probably fail because there isn't a code. And also there's no need to supply the... Yeah, so that's failed. There's no need to do this on this one, so we will... How do you change that? No auth. There we go. I'm going to just run this for a second. I just want to be 100% sure I haven't broken this. Yeah, okay, that's fine. That's still working good. Okay, this one here though. Abstract get access code from returns value must be of a type string. Null is returned. Ha ha ha. If is method get. It is a get request, surely, right? I'm looking at a get. I'm doing a get request, so it should be a get request. Yeah, it is a get. So if is method get, then it's this. Unless this needs to be request. I'm not sure. Although to be fair, we need to do code is equal to 123 or PFWD code. I think that should be query, but whatever. We'll soon find out. Yeah. Let's do query. There we go. That works. Okay, so now we have our access token. Oh, this is so cool. Yeah, we now have our access token. Let's deal with the fact that it doesn't, if we don't have an access token, what happens? So if, if we don't have a code. So if this is, so that's coming out as a get. Let's do this as a post. A post request. So code is equal to, whoops, PFWD code, send. It should now go into this one, which it doesn't. Nothing. Ah, I see. Okay, so at this point here, it's come into here and it can't find it for some reason. Code. Oh, I'm in headers. No. That's not right. I need to be in body. Oh dear. That's not right. Can I get rid of this? How do I get rid of that? There we go. I need to be in body. That's what I need to do. And it probably needs to be this, possibly. Code is equal to PFWD code. That's good. That works fine. So let's do it now where we have a blank code. So we should fall into this part here. That should throw us an error. And the error should be that it can't find this because it doesn't marry up with that. So what we need to do, I think what I'm going to do is return this, is to allow this to be a nullable thing, right? So there we go. So it's going to be null or a string. And in the response manager, in here we can do if empty, because then that covers bases where it's an empty string as well as null, code, then we throw an exception. Throw new exception. And can we do an access denied exception? In fact, we can test this with code. Code is missing or something. We can run this against GitHub, the live thing, and actually find out what they do at this in this instance. So code is missing. Now I don't know how that's going to affect this. So code is missing 403 exception. Now, obviously, this is an API and it's returning HTML. It's something I'm going to have to play with later, I think. I'll put this in as a GitHub issue, I think. But the thing that's important is it's a 403. Let's see if we can run this against the actual GitHub itself as a post request without a code. And let's see what happens. As a post request, run that, no code. It's a 404. 404. Code. Send. Not found. Not found. It's a 404. I would have thought it would have been an access denied, but do I need to supply like the client IDs and everything? I probably do. Params post. Oh, I'm not doing this in the body. Ugh, every time. Still a 404. Just want to give it something to I mean, I suppose a 404 does make sense in this instance. Okay, fine, it's a 404. Fine. Not found HTTP exception. That it just says not found. Boom. That's all. Go back to this. Hit U. That should change to a 404 now. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. 404 not found. There we go. Okay, so obviously I need to tie this up to be JSON, like yeah. But the next thing I can do, what's the time? 8:16. Okay, we got a wee bit of time. That's fine. So, okay, let's step through. What is it that we're doing here? We are running. We're requesting an access token, passing in the body of code, which is PFWD code. Okay. We send that. And we get this. What we're after is the access token, which is PFWD123, because then when we do get user, we can then use the access token in here. Now, we can do something clever with Postman, can't we? Let's get rid of that and just don't save that. Let's save that. We can do something clever with that. With this in tests, we can actually write a little bit of node to manipulate the environment variables, pulling out the access token. And I cannot remember how to do that. So I've done it before on how to code well. I'm just doing this offline just so I can see. Auth token tests authorization register. There is one of these I've done where there is a test, I'm sure of it. This is the How to Code Well API. I'm sure I've done something where, there we go, tests. Here we go. So var data, we grab the response. As JSON, we pull out the user token, or we set the user token as one of the environment variables to the access rights. Okay, give me a second. Test API server, that's what we're playing with. Okay, right, so when we do the access token, we can do tests, supply that in. Now this is, if I remember rightly, this is called just access token. Okay, the idea is that I want to change this on the fly. So we changed that to be data access token. Okay, sweet. Let's just send that again. Make sure that works okay. Grand. So to test this, I suppose we would have a look at this and see it's still PFWD123. What happens though if I was to change the code, change this to be 1234, right? And then ran this again, that should change to PFWD1234. The tests should update the access token environment variable to 1234. So let's send that. One, two, three, four, which should run this, which then should change this to be 1234. Sweet. Which means that if I make a request here, it's going to use the access token that we've stored, which we've just manipulated and changed. This should throw an error because the access token has changed. Yes, it does. 1234 doesn't exist. Brilliant. That's super, super cool. So what I'm going to do is create a test. Test 123 code. Which has the access token for test 123. 1, 2, 3. And this will be my little end-to-end, I think. It's a good way to end the stream. We've done loads of work today, which is great. So, okay, we're going to do an access. We're going to pass in. Let's just pass in PFWD code for now. Okay. So that's going to grab this one, which is correct. Let's change that though to test 123 code. Let's hit send on that. We should now get the token for this, which we do, test 123. Test 123 should also be our new access token, which has been set in here, which it is. So then if I ran the get user on here, the access token is changed, obviously, in the environment variables. This should now pull out this file, which it does. Wonderful. That is super cool. I am super happy with that. That is that is really, really good. We've managed to create a way of representing the GitHub API and configure it as well and make it configurable. Obviously, there's no tests, code tests against this. I'm just using Postman as a means of bouncing requests onto it and just seeing what the responses are. But I guess eventually I want to test these out. I'm still a little bit unhappy with the names of these things, but those can all be changed in the mix. That's the fun of refactoring, isn't it? But yeah, that is so cool. We've got like 10 minutes left. I think what I'm going to do is just do a git status. Let's see all the things that we've changed. There's loads of stuff. Let's do a git commit minus AM. This is a WIP for this is response managers plus config. And we'll do a git push. So that'll go up. It was rejected. Updates are rejected. Git pull. Have I not pushed this up before? I'm sure I've pushed this up before. Yeah, I have. What was the error? Error updates were rejected because the tip of your current branch is behind its remote counterpart. Okay, fine. If I did a git pull again, that's going to give me this error, isn't it? I need to set the upstream branch. Git branch set upstream origin. This should be features. GitHub auth. Now let's pull it down. What was the change? Merge conflict. Marvelous. Oh dear. What have I done? Okay, this is the stuff I was doing last night. Yeah. This was, I was trying to represent all of this in an array. Yeah. But now we're doing it. Let's authorize. Yeah, but now we're doing it through the access token. That's fine. That's fine. Let's get rid of all of this jazz. We don't need that. And this. Once I get my tests running on this thing, it's going to be so much better to give me a lot more confidence, I think. But I won't merge it into master until we're actually there yet. So I'm just going to push up this branch, which I've done. By the way, this is all open source. I only started this last week, so we should just see that being up there now. How to code well, course notes, let's change that to be here. There we go. So I won't do I guess what I could do is do a draft PR. Yeah, let's try that. Create a draft PR. Hot PR. Points and response. Configuration. Okay, so now we're on a PR, and I'll just keep merging. I'll just keep committing into this, I think, and then once I'm happy with this, I'll do a merge into into the master branch once I'm happy. But there's a lot of things that I want to do. This has the Docker file in. It's also got in Composer we've got things like PHP MD, PHP Stan, Codeception. So it's all the stuff is waiting and ready for me to and sniffers and security audits to create those. I'm also going to create a make file as well. So I'll probably do all of this like over the next course of few evenings, really, and then write some tests against these things. I may even go as far as creating some API tests to test itself. With these things, with the access tokens and stuff, with the config, what I'm thinking of doing is, because now it's really flexible and configurable, I'm thinking of setting some defaults in here, like for the test 123 and the PFWD code, for instance, and then having git ignore, and then ignoring anything else in these folders, meaning that I can then manipulate the this without worrying about committing the actual bits and pieces up to the thing, because eventually this is going to have to run against the staging box. So there's going to be stuff in here which I don't want people to obviously get access to. So there's going to be some configuration, some YAML files that will be ignored. That's what I'm saying. I think that's probably what I'll do. I may even put those as environment variables rather than code, and then do something clever to inject the environment variables into these things or something. I don't know. Mine's a buzz at the moment, but I'm really happy with the way this is gone. Really happy. Like, it is literally just a single line in the controller. That's so clean. This I need to tackle. This is the authorize. You're passing in a state, and it's returning the code and the state. This is the step before access token, which is before obviously getting the user back. But yeah, awesome. Anyway, I'm a contractor, and I've got a day of other work, so I'm gonna pick this up tonight after work. But for now, I've got to get my breakfast, and I've got to get myself sorted for the start of my day. But anyway, thanks ever so much for watching. Happy coding, everybody, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers. Bye.